You are now live.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. We will call the Rules Committee meeting to order. If it could please have a roll call.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Connor.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
All committee members are present. Mr. Chair, you're muted.
I apologize. If I could have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, please.
Motion
So
to
moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Very good. And I'm going to ask you, if you would please, Ms. Viviano, to read in our legislation for us here today. So if you could start with our first piece.
Item number 1 is offered by Mayor Horrigan, President Somerville, and Councilman Fusco. Resolution honoring the life of Dorothy O. Jackson and expressing sympathy on her recent passing and declaring an emergency.
Let's see. Mr. Fusco, would you like to start us off here?
I see that Mayor Horrigan is online, and I respectfully, if he wishes to speak, turn it over to him.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mayor, didn't see you there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know Dorothy touched a lot of people on this call and even across the city. There's very few times when words really don't do enough. But then the best way I can describe Dorothy is that she always had her hands outstretched to greet you as opposed to the other way around. And she really taught me, and I know a lot of others, some very important things of how to deal with people, because she really, really enjoyed and loved people and helping them out. And she will certainly be missed across the community. And we look to emulate what she did with her life and how she treated others. Like I said, words really don't do enough to really extol what she and how important she was to the city. And I know a lot of people on this call. I know I'm not alone in thinking that way. So Councilman Fusco, thank you for letting me go, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fusco. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Mr.
thank you,
Fusco.
Chair. Thank you. No, just that one of Akron, truly one of Akron's great leaders. The first Black female to serve in a cabinet role, appointed by then Mayor Tom Sawyer, winner of the Burt Polsky Award, Humanitarian Award. She fought for those who were less fortunate. And her heart was always in the right place. What else can you say? I mean, just an icon here in our community. We're all blessed to have served with her and to have known her. I do have one quick story. Working with her for 7 years in the cabinet under Mayor Plasquelik, he had, excuse me. One day I got a phone call from Dorothy Jackson, and that's one. So you sit up straight, you're ready to go. And Dorothy said, we need to get a light in front of the Arlington Church of God. And it's like, and I said, Dorothy, that's not my department, it's somebody else. And she said, yeah, but you got to get the light in front of the Arlington Church. I said, okay, I'm going to work on that, but we'll see what happens, And so she, very persistent, very precise and persistent, but there's kind of a smile back there, but it was like pushing, the whole time. And so I checked into it and so on and so forth. And of course, came back, traffic engineering, there's no possible way we're going to be able to put a light up there. There's no possible way there's going to be a light there. And it's like, okay. Of course, I reported back to Dorothy Jackson. And then it was a little more pushy, you know what I'm saying? Like a whole lot. And she's like, you gotta make this happen. You gotta make this happen. I'm like, there's no possible way. This is the state of Ohio and all their laws with traffic, and the bad things happen if we go out of bounds from the traffic code. There's no possible way this is gonna happen. No way. And I told her that, and of course that didn't go well. But if you go by there today, though, I don't know if it's divine intervention. Dorothy Jackson was a person of the cloth, and just she was but if you go there today, you will see that light is there. It happened. So she knew how to make things happen. And it was just a joy to be one of many Akronites who benefited from knowing her. And thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Fusco. Ms. Connor, I see your hand.
Sorry, I just want to say it was truly a pleasure to know Dorothy Jackson. She was one of those people that you walked into the room and her smile just lit up the whole place. She always had a kind word. She always held your hands like she just couldn't wait to meet you and know you. And my running story with her is I always told her that I wanted to be like Dorothy Jackson when I grow up. So hopefully I'll get to do that. And she will truly be missed. And what a great person. So my condolences to her family, and she will a big void to fill for us.
Thank you, Councilwoman Connor. Ms. Amobian?
Yeah, I just like to ditto everything that's been said, but particularly that Dorothy was always in a position of service to others. One of the things you would always see Dorothy doing is doing the sign language wherever she was, whether she was scheduled to do it or not, she would always make herself available. And I think most of us, if not all of us, know that there's a housing project named for her at the corner of Barges and Main Street or Broadway, whatever that area, High Street is called. But that is named for her because of the service that she rendered to people like that throughout her life. So certainly express condolences to her family and all of those who knew her.
Thank you. Okay, looking around for anyone else. I would like to chime in. Just a few years ago, and Miss Jackson, she was involved in a project and had taken a very, very back seat as far as being out in front, and was just doing, I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but was doing some menial tasks. And I heard someone say, why is she doing that? She's Dorothy Jackson. And I thought, exactly, she's Dorothy Jackson. And that, as somebody used the word, servant, and that truly was, that was the epitome. She was epitome of service. So Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just ditto what a lot of other folks said. I think the thing that stands out to me most about Miss Dorothy Jackson is just that she was always embracing, always a spirit of humility. Always had a smile, and I had a gentle spirit. I've said this a lot on this call, and it seems like the longer you live, the more you say it. The proverb of when an elder dies, the library burns. And I heard the mayor when he said, if we can emulate Miss Jackson, and I can honestly say for myself, I feel privileged to be able to serve as a public servant. And when I do, those like Miss Jackson, those who have been long gone, I always think of them when I'm privileged to sit in this seat. And so I hope we don't, another part of a lot of our cultures is as long as we remember and repeat the names of our now ancestors, they never die. So not just repeating the names, but if we're serious to emulate those good qualities that they have, we'll all be better for it. So I'm just thankful for the impression that she's made on, I'll say my family, because a lot of my family knew her like a lot of yours. And I will remember, as I'm privileged to serve, not just her, but a lot of other names are coming to, I don't know why, when I think of her, I think of Miss Ann Gates. Mr. Fusco, I'm going to need, or Miss Amobian, I'm going to need your help, because I want to mention, because somebody else name who resonates when I think of her, and this is our sister that used to come to council meetings all the time and fight for Grace Park.
Ethel Chambers.
Thank you, Sister Connor. Thank you. I don't know why I got to put those three names together. So I'm just thankful for being able to experience and see them work and use that as a guiding light for me as I do my service. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I'm not missing any hands. I do not see any other hands. Would look for a motion.
Suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, I have my my legislation up here now. Next is a resolution expressing disappointment in the State Board of Education's repeal of Resolution 20, which condemned racism and promoted equity and opportunity for Black, Indigenous, and other students of color, and declaring an emergency. And who would like to take the lead on this?
I will.
Thank you, Ms. Mobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I certainly echo what the Akron Board of Education did a few weeks ago when they expressed unanimous disappointment in the State Board of Education. I think, first of all, education is extremely critical to a civilized society. And it's extremely important that we educate all of our children. There is just no room for politicizing education. You know, about a year and a half or 2 years ago, when George Floyd was murdered, most all organizations, including educational institutions, passed resolutions and proclamations and so forth and so on, acknowledging that racism is a public health crisis, and started looking at ways in which we could address and focus on issues that resulted in us leaving too many of our children and families behind. And in Akron, we have always, as a city, partnered with the Akron Public School District in so many ways. Major initiatives, you can name them: safe school efforts, after school programming, where we were helping kids get up to speed on different areas of their education and feeding them after school breakfast and lunch and all kinds of meals. And then the major one is rebuilding our school district, the buildings that our children go to school in each and every day. So when I read the resolution and heard the discussion, because I did tune into the board meeting, and I see where all of these individuals have, two people have resigned from the State Board of Education as a result of the repealing of Resolution 20. Because Resolution 20 specifically identified areas that they wanted school districts to focus on, to do something about the disparities that we saw in the educational offerings and how poorly minority children were performing in schools across this state. They looked at the data and said, we need to support ways to close those gaps. They talked about school districts just doing all kinds of very specific things to eradicate racism and all the issues associated. And for them to repeal that and come up with something else that doesn't do as much to identify what they were expecting from school districts across the state. And then to talk about the fact that teaching children real history, the history that I did not learn as a child and that I'm learning every day as an adult, that there's something wrong with sharing that with our children. And you're talking about folks like Sojourner Truth and, Madam C.J. Walker, all of these icons who were part of history, teaching this information to children in general. So people know that there were folks who looked like me, who contributed mightily to this country. And that's what Resolution 20 was trying to focus on. Let's do better to bring all of our children up. And for them to rescind that, I was very disappointed. And because we've always supported the fact that we cannot afford to leave any of our children and families behind. We see what our society is becoming as we leave groups behind, and we cannot afford to do this. We need to do whatever we can to equip our children with the skills and talents they need to take on these jobs and to create better communities throughout our city. As a result of that, I thought it was necessary for us to support what the Akron Board of Education was trying to do and communicate to the state, that this is wrong. What you did initially is what you should continue to do. And that is why this resolution is here today. And I'm hoping that all of my colleagues will support it, but it's up to you as individuals. But again, we have been strong supporters of Akron Public Schools, and we have always been there and been a part of all of the good positive things that they've tried to do. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to echo my colleagues' comments. We see, unfortunately, all across the country, these, anger and frustration and hatred about what's being taught in schools and about how to teach race in schools and critical race theory. And it really stems from such a dishonest and false talking point that when folks use the term critical race theory. But what it really is at base is folks are uncomfortable with teaching a real history about race in our country in schools. And there's a lack of willingness to face those uncomfortable realities. And when people talk about we need parents to talk about this. We need a colorblind history. The colorblind history is not a true history of our country. And like Councilwoman Amobian said, Resolution 20 last year was an attempt to address that. And to repeal that is so disappointing. I was disappointed that one of our former Akron school board members who represents the city on the state school board voted to repeal this resolution. I thought that was really disappointing. And I also, to add insult to injury, the members who, two of the members who voted against the repeal have now had to resign because they're told they would not be confirmed by the state legislature for having the temerity to stand up against these attacks. So I'm sure this is not the last time we're going to hear about these issues coming before our communities, sadly, because this is a lie that continues to be perpetrated. I hope that we continue to work with our school board to address it.
Right. Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would join my colleagues in their comments, both Councilwoman Amobian and Councilman Malik. I would add that as the proud mother of 3 Akron Public Schools graduates, that I feel a certain personal imperative to step up and support our Akron Public School Board in taking a brave and necessary position on this issue. Our Akron Public Schools are indeed and should be our serious partner in building the city that we desire, building the city that we need, not just today, but for all of the seen and seeable years in the future. The children and their families are our future. The other piece of this is that I think that it's incumbent upon us to recognize that the purpose of public school is to teach kids what society needs them to know. And that when we close down, when we narrow and close off the range of what is true and necessary and real, and central to this idea of preparing good citizens and a whole society prepared to move into the future, that essential to this is offering a perspective that is honest, that is fair, and that is just. And so it is with a very serious perspective and proudly that I join Councilwoman Amobian and my colleagues as a co-sponsor of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My colleagues pretty much said it all. But I do want to just say that I'm proud of our school board, a young school board, 2 years in, that they have not just, this resolution isn't one just a lip service by them, but if we look at their track record, how they've come in and established, they're the legislative body of the school board. Their job, like ours, is to set policy. And they've established a racial equity policy for the school system. They've worked with the staff, the administration, and the unions there to establish a policy of equity throughout the system. And they continue to develop that. And so I just want to say that I'm proud of them. And the stance that they took is, again, this isn't just a political stance. Their work shows that they believe in equity. And I just want to commend them at this time. Again, I stand with my colleagues. I appreciate Councilwoman Amobian bringing this in. And I look for us to continue to stand with the school board, not just in words, but working with them to grow not just an equitable school system, but an equitable city.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Am I missing any hands anywhere? Looking to see, Sarah, help me out a little bit.
I don't see any hands up at this time,
Okay.
Chair.
Okay. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you for all those comments. Do I have a motion from perhaps one of the sponsors?
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. And okay, let me look around here. Okay, we do have one more resolution. I'm sorry, I almost missed that. A resolution recognizing May Chen and congratulating her on her induction into the Cleveland International Hall of Fame and declaring an emergency. Who would like to speak, please?
This is Linda Mobian. I don't know, am I on? Yeah.
Yes.
Linda Mobian again. Just want to recognize a dear colleague and friend who did something humongous for this community when she created Asia Inc. At the time she created this, there were no services, pretty much no services available in the community for this particular population. And she saw the need, and not only did she create an agency in Akron, she created one in Cleveland as well. And if you ever have time to visit, they moved to a new site. I think it's at the corner of Forge and East Market. If you ever have an opportunity to visit, I visited the agency when they were on Carroll Street. And at that time, they had a whole range of services. But I think they've taken it to a whole new level now because they have an FQHC now and all kinds of services for this particular population of folks. And they're doing extremely well. And she was recently honored by being placed in the Hall of Fame for her spectacular contribution. So I just want to say thank you to her for all she's done for this community in servicing a specialized population and all the years that she's contributed. She started out as the CEO, eventually retired and turned it over to someone else. And I think they have that third CEO in place now. but May Chan is known in this community as being a trailblazer and doing some magnificent things for the Asian population. And we thank her tremendously for what she has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amobian. Was there anyone else that would like to comment on this resolution? Ms. Holland. You're muted, Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would simply join Councilwoman Amobian's remarks about Mei Chen by adding that it is her kind of skill and tenacity in organizing and advocating that can make a strong community even stronger. Her work, her achievement, her commitment is truly outstanding. And I'm just amazed. And so I offer my congratulations as well, and feel that we are truly honored to have this kind of advocacy here in our community and beyond, reaching into Cleveland as well. This is how we build the city that we want to be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure on behalf of the Asian American community, there would be a multitude of comments that would arise regarding this resolution as well. Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, wanted to echo my colleague's thoughts, but also just mention that I know Ms. Chen has advocated for lots of different communities, and I know particularly for aging Akronites. And I know that because it wasn't just a few weeks ago that she pulled me aside at an event and it gave me a whole lot of ideas and thoughts and made me take some notes down. So that's, she's someone who is constantly thinking about how she can make the city and this community a better place for all kinds of folks. So I really appreciate her work.
Thank you. If we have no further comments, could I have a motion, please?
Motion for suspension of the rules with favorable.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, that is all of our business for the Rules Committee, and we will call the meeting to a close at 2:29 p.m. Thanks to each and everyone. Thank you.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Service Committee, and that will be chaired today by Councilman Kamer. The other committee members are Holland, Lombardo, and McKittrick. All members are present, so we're ready whenever you are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I'd like to call the public service meeting to order, please. We do have to approve minutes from our last meeting, please.
Motion to approve previous minutes.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, thanks. We do have two resolutions in front of us today. First one's a resolution declaring it necessary to improve Arlington Street between the termini of Erickson Avenue and Munson Street by resurfacing and declaring emergency. And we have Chris Lutto with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. This is another ODOT project. Last week, we brought the 4 miles that we were going to do Maple Street turned into Copley Road and then the part of Manchester Road. So this is Arlington Street. So this is all the way down at Munson. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar down by where the new Towpath Trail is. There were a few salvage yards down there on North Arlington, and it goes all the way out, crosses Market, all the way south, almost to Arlington Plaza. So this is 3.5 miles of resurfacing with ODOT money, another $800,000 that engineering went and applied for through AMATS and was awarded. It's an 80-20 project. It will be done first part of 2022. We will be managing this project. This legislation in front of you is for the assessment portion. So this just allows us to start the process of notifying the property owners that are Arlington Street and their their resurfacing that will be coming up in the spring. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments? Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Luddle, since this is an ODOT project, and since I've had a little bit of recent experience about this, I'm going to take a wild stab and hope that I'm asking this question in the right place. Do you know, or will we know ahead of time, whether this particular project will result in any lane changes, specifically lane reductions or turn lane changes? And if so, is it possible to know about these in advance of the work so that people using this particular segment can be prepared for those changes?
That's a good question, Councilwoman. This project, we are going to look after the resurfacing, after we restripe it, part of the Heritage Trail, and that will not be affected in this project. So this is resurfacing, and then we are not reducing any lanes at this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute. Any other council members? No, I do not see any. Chris, what's your pleasure?
Consent's fine, sir.
All right, thanks. I'll make the motion for consent agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll put that on consent agenda. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
All right, our next resolution offered by the mayor, approving and confirming the appointment of Dana K. Lagarde to the Metro Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees and declare an emergency. And who do we have from the mayor's office? Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Chairman Kamer. Thank you. I know Mayor Horgan wanted to speak on this himself, but unfortunately wasn't able to stay. So I believe you all should have a copy of Ms. Lagarde's resume. She will be filling the seat previously filled by Nicholas Fernandez, who stepped down from his position on the board, and that will ensure a full contingent from the Akron members of the 12-member Metro board. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Ellen. Questions or comments, committee members? I don't see any. Council members? I don't see any there. Ellen, what's your pleasure?
I think you guys have probably seen in the news that Metro is going through negotiations with their union. There's some issues that are, seriously being discussed right now. So I think it would be helpful if this person could be appointed immediately and we could pass this legislation this evening.
Sure. Committee, anybody want to make a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion for suspension of the rules with favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, we'll pass that this evening. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you very much.
If anything else, nothing else come before us, I don't see anything. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Utilities and Green Committee. Scheduled for 2:45, so we have about 10 minutes before we'll get started with that. Those committee members are Freeman, McKittrick, Connor, Mosley, and Holland. Again, that's the Public Utilities and Green Committee, and that's going to be at 2:45. So we will stop our live stream and be back then. Thank you.